All right, so this is the breaking news that we are getting at this hour. KP Sharma Oli has resigned. He is to submit his papers to the president. And KP Sharma Oli, has been around Nepalese politics for a long time. But the fact that he did not foresee what was coming, were protests less than 48 hours long, and he's now announced his resignation. He'll be submitting his papers to the president sometime this afternoon or towards the evening. This, of course, is the big breaking development that was confirmed to us by our correspondent Saloni Murarka, who is tracking all the developments at this moment from Kathmandu. She is at the Kathmandu International Airport, where all operations, we're given to understand, have been stalled for some time. And we need to see as to what unfolds from there. But how do the protesters now react to the fact that KP Sharma Oli has indicated that he'll step down, that he will resign? My colleague Saloni would be able to tell us better. Saloni, at this moment, have we heard anything from the side of the protesters, given the fact that KP Sharma Oli has now announced that he will be stepping down and he will resign and tender his resignation papers to the president? All right, we seem to have lost the line with my colleague Saloni Murarka. We'll try and reconnect with her, but this is the big development at this moment. KP Sharma Oli, in less than 48 hours of the protests breaking out, has now resigned. He has said that he will submit his resignation papers to the president sometime this afternoon or towards the evening. But this is what is unfolding since yesterday morning, when the protests broke out. The protests were very violent yesterday. 19 people died. 19 of the protesters were killed in police action when they clashed with the riot police there. But since this morning, this has been confirmed by our correspondent as well, of the reports that the police has been asked to go easy on the protesters. Heavy-handed force has not been deployed, and the protesters have also remained much more calm since this morning. The residence of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has been set on fire. He is reportedly at his official residence now, and many of the family members of many of the cabinet members whose homes have come under attack have also been airlifted to safety by the Nepalese army. So KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, has resigned. He will submit his resignation papers to the president sometime this afternoon towards evening. And what broke as protests against the government action to ban social media sites, because the social media sites were not adhering to the new government policy that they should register with the government in a certain time frame, which resulted in many of these big social media giants to be banned in Nepal, which brought these youngsters out onto the streets, has resulted in the Nepalese Prime Minister stepping down from his job. KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, has resigned, and we expect him to submit his papers to the president sometime this afternoon towards evening. But this, remember, is not just a protest about the social media sites that were banned in Nepal briefly because the social media giants did not comply with the new government plans that had been brought in, where the government had indicated that all of these social media giants must have a grievance redressal officer stationed in Kathmandu. They must register with the Nepalese government in a certain time frame, which did not happen. And therefore, the government in Nepal said that according to the Supreme Court guidelines that had been laid out in the country earlier, they decided to go ahead and ban these social media giants. However, that ban was revoked, but that did not satisfy many of these protesters who have been out on the streets. And it now remains to be seen as to what unfolds from here, because we need to yet hear from the protesters who had been demanding that KP Sharma Oli should resign. He has now resigned, and we now need to wait and watch as to what the protesters have to say after this. Will the protests die down, or will they continue to simmer with other deep-rooted problems that afflict the Nepalese political system? These are some of the issues that need an answer for. But this is what the scene looks like at this moment in Kathmandu, where the protesters are out on the streets, tires are being burnt, life has been brought to a standstill, The Kathmandu International Airport has also been brought to a standstill, where the operations have been halted. All international flights have been stopped. And KP Sharma Oli, amidst all of this, has now announced that he will step down and resign. And therefore, it now remains to be seen as to what happens with these protests. You can run. So this is what the scene looks like in Nepal at this moment. But the big breaking development that has come through is that KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, has now announced that he is stepping down. He will tender his resignation to the President sometime this afternoon. Will this satisfy the demands of the protesters? That's something that is yet to be seen. But all roads in Kathmandu, all major roads, have all been barricaded, and it now remains to be seen as to what in fact unfolds there in Nepal. So KP Sharma Oli, the seasoned politician in Nepal, he has now tendered his, he has announced that he will resign. He will tender his resignation sometime this afternoon to the Nepalese president. And remember, the president's house has also been set on fire by the protesters, who've been extremely angry with the state of affairs in Nepal. President Ramchandra Paudel, his house was also set on fire by the protesters, who've been extremely furious with the Nepalese political dispensation. And cutting across party lines, the political leaders in Nepal have borne the brunt of the anger. And my colleague Saloni Murarka has sent us this report. Listen in to what she had to say.
The situation has escalated in the capital, Kathmandu. Protesters have gathered around the parliament building. This is the main gate that you see behind me, is the main gate of the Federal Parliament of Nepal. The protesters and the police clashed. The police fired tear gases. The other side hurled the stones on the police officials. Now they have just gathered around in front of the main parliament gate. These young people want change in the Nepal's government system. They want the Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's government to step down and want a directly elected Prime Minister. This is for the change that they want here in the nation, with the rising corruption, widening inequality. And just with this frustration, all the youngsters have come down on the streets of Kathmandu. The entire country has been witnessing these protests. Crowd has been increasing minute by minute. Protesters are gathering around the parliament. As you can see, police officials, APF, Nepal army have been deployed, and not only outside the premises but inside as well. Many of the protesters have attacked the leaders' houses and party office buildings here in Kathmandu. I'm reporting from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm Saloni Murarka for WION.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call, global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION The World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello and welcome back to our continuous coverage of what is unfolding at this moment in Nepal, where the Prime Minister of Nepal, KP Sharma Oli, has announced that he will resign and tender his resignation papers sometime this afternoon. We'll get you all the updates, but first, let's take a look as to what is making headlines at this hour. Now, Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigns amidst massive protests in capital Kathmandu and other Nepalese cities. And Nepal is on the boil even after the ban order on social media is withdrawn. All flights have been stopped at Kathmandu's Tribhuvan International Airport. Massive protests and violence has gripped the country. Curfew has been imposed in Kathmandu, and there are reports of arson and vandalism by the protesters. And the protesters set fire to Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's private residence, demanding for accountability for Monday deaths. An all-party meeting had been called for this evening. India says it is closely monitoring the developments and has urged Indian nationals in Nepal to exercise caution. Security has been stepped up at the 1,700-kilometer long porous India-Nepal border. And the Indian Prime Minister does an aerial survey of the flood-hit areas in Himachal Pradesh, and he's also to visit Punjab to assess the situation and to monitor progress of the relief and rescue operations. And China launches a new remote sensing satellite from its space launch site Henan province. The Yangon 45 satellite will carry out scientific experiments and land resource surveys and will also enable crop yield estimates. And there is rush hour chaos in London as the underground strike enters into its second full working day. The workers walk out on Sunday over pay and conditions, and the tube isn't expected to reopen until Friday morning. And global bonds are rallying up by about 20% from their 2022 lows as the markets ramp up expectations for renewed Federal Reserve rate cuts, signaling mounting confidence in easier monetary policy ahead. And North Korea celebrates its 77th anniversary of its founding with mass dance and fireworks. Flag hoisting ceremony and fireworks were set off in Pyongyang, and China sent its congratulatory message expressing willingness to strengthen cooperation. The Nepalese Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has resigned amidst protests in the capital Kathmandu and other cities. Earlier, the demonstrators had gathered outside KP Sharma Oli's residence demanding accountability for Monday's fatalities. During the protest, the demonstrators also set fire to his private residence. The central office of the Nepali Congress in Sanepa was also reportedly vandalized. The Kathmandu District Administration Office has imposed an indefinite curfew inside the Ring Road area of the Nepalese capital, reintroducing restriction just hours after an earlier order was lifted. So according to reports, the police deployed tear gas to disperse the protesters, although the authorities stated that security forces had been instructed to exercise restraint and that no live ammunition was authorized. There have been reports of gunfire and bullet injuries. The Tribhuvan International Airport has been fully shut following the escalating demonstrations. The Nepalese army has been deployed to provide security at the airport. Earlier, Nepal's Agriculture Minister Ramnath Adhikari and the Health Minister Pradeep Paudel had both aligned with the Nepali Congress had resigned from their posts. Condemning the government crackdown, their resignation follows that of the Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak, who stepped down, taking moral responsibility for the government's handling of the protest. India, meanwhile, has raised concerns over the protest. In a statement, New Delhi said that it is closely monitoring the developments since yesterday and is deeply saddened by the loss of many young lives. Taking note that the authorities have imposed curfew in Kathmandu and several other cities in Nepal, it has advised Indian nationals to exercise caution and to adhere to the steps and guidance issued by the Nepali authorities. And my colleague Saloni Murarka has been tracking developments from the Kathmandu International Airport. Listen in to what she had to say.
The situation has escalated in the capital, Kathmandu. Protesters have gathered around the parliament building. This is the main gate that you see behind me, is the main gate of the Federal Parliament of Nepal. The protesters and the police clashed. The police fired tear gases. The other side hurled the stones on the police officials. Now they have just gathered around in front of the main parliament gate. These young people want change in the Nepal's government system. They want the Nepal Prime Minister Sharma Oli's government to step down and want a directly elected Prime Minister. This is for the change that they want here in the nation, with the rising corruption, widening inequality, and just with this frustration, all the youngsters have come down on the streets of Kathmandu. The entire country has been witnessing these protests. Crowd has been increasing minute by minute. Protesters are gathering around the parliament. As you can see, police officials, APF, Nepal army have been deployed, and not only outside the premises but inside as well. Many of the protesters have attacked the leaders' houses and party office buildings here in Kathmandu. I'm reporting from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm Saloni Murarka for WION.
All right, now in a major setback to Thailand's influential Shinawatra family, the country's Supreme Court has sent the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to jail for 1 year. The court ruled that Shinawatra had improperly served a 2023 prison term in a hospital suite and had ordered him to complete his prison sentence of 1 year. After returning to Thailand in August 2023, Thaksin was sentenced to 8 years for corruption and abuse of power, later commuted to 1 year. Now, instead of prison, he spent 6 months in a VIP hospital wing, sparking questions about special treatment. The court found his hospital stay wasn't a valid substitute for prison time, stating that he did not have a severe illness and his prolonged stay was a clear violation. Following the Supreme Court ruling, Thaksin was taken into custody at Bangkok Remand Prison to serve the remainder of his sentence. Now, ahead of the ruling, Thaksin Shinawatra arrived at the Supreme Court with his family, including former Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra, who was removed last month after a court found her guilty of an ethics violation for a politically compromising phone call with Cambodia's Senate President Hun Sen. Now, Paetongtarn Shinawatra said that her family remains strong despite her father Thaksin's prison sentence, while highlighting his role as a spiritual leader in Thai politics.
Today is another historic day that a Thai Prime Minister has to be in prison for the first time. This is quite tough, but of course our father and our family are still strong. We appreciate all support for my father and family. Thaksin remains a spiritual leader for Thai politics. He always thinks about the country and always intends to improve lives of Thai people.
In a message posted on social media, Thaksin Shinawatra thanked the king for reducing his prison sentence to 1 year, vowing to go through the judicial process. He said that his proudest moment was pushing policies to uplift people's livelihoods when he was the Prime Minister from 2001 to 2006. Now, thanking his supporters and members of the Pheu Thai party, the former Prime Minister wrote that while he may no longer have freedom, he has freedom of thought to create benefit for the country and the people. In the latest escalation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukraine's Air Force says that the Russian forces had launched 84 drones overnight into Tuesday. Of these, 60 were shot down by the Ukrainian air defenses. The drones were fired from Bryansk, Kirks, Milerovo, amongst others, with 23 of them striking targets across 10 locations. Meanwhile, in Russia, a man was killed in a Ukrainian drone attack on the Black Sea city of Sochi. Regional officials say that 6 residential homes were also damaged, and Russia's defense ministry claims that it intercepted 31 Ukrainian drones overnight, 15 of them over the Black Sea. In a related development, rising tensions are also being witnessed along Russia's border with Finland. Former Russian President and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has accused Helsinki of preparing for war with Russia, pointing to Finland's NATO membership and what he calls provocative NATO military exercises. Now, writing an opinion piece published by TASS, Medvedev criticized the establishment of NATO's Land Forces Command Center in the Finnish city of Mikkeli, close to the Russian border. Now, both sides are visibly fortifying their positions. Last month, Finland announced new defenses along its eastern frontier. And just last weekend, Moscow revealed that it too was reinforcing security measures on its border with Finland, in response to what it has described as Helsinki's unfriendly actions. The Finland, remember, formally joined the NATO military alliance in April 2023, citing its security concerns over Russia. Now, the Israeli military has ordered for the complete evacuation of all Palestinians from Gaza City ahead of its ground invasion. This warning by the Israeli forces marks the first widespread evacuation order of all of Gaza City. Remember, it has given such evacuation orders in the past as well, pushing all Palestinians to the south. Now, the previous warnings issued by the IDF in recent days had included specific buildings and the area surrounding them. Now, the IDF's recent statement is aligned with Netanyahu's earlier call for all Palestinians to leave their homes in Gaza City. Now, Netanyahu had said that the Israeli troops are being assembled to enter into the Palestinian territory's main urban center that has been bombed to rubble.
In the past 2 days, 50 towers have been brought down by the Air Force. All of this is just a prelude, the opening stage of a much larger and more intense operation, a ground maneuver by our forces, who are now preparing to enter Gaza City.
Now, the Israeli media says that 4 Israeli soldiers were killed in fighting with Hamas on an army camp near Gaza City. According to the initial investigation, the Hamas fighters reached a tank when it was stationed at the entrance to the encampment and then hurled an explosive into the tank, killing the 4 Israeli soldiers. Now, the IDF then returned fire at the fleeing Hamas fighters and then hit at least 2 of them. Now, the IDF forces have been carrying out attacks. They have been repeatedly bombing the high-rise buildings that are still standing in Gaza City over the last several days. Now, the Israelis have destroyed at least about 50 high-rise buildings in Gaza City. And what is interesting is this: Israel is accusing Hamas of putting surveillance infrastructure in any building that is still left standing in Gaza. In a separate development, the IDF raided the house of one of the 2 Palestinian gunmen who killed 6 people in Jerusalem on Monday. The United Nations has condemned the shooting as a terror attack. Meanwhile, the organizers of the Gaza-bound aid flotilla claimed that one of their boats was hit by a suspected drone. Now, the boat is currently in the Tunisian port of Sidi Bou, and the footage of this drone strike has surfaced. However, Tunisia's National Guard has said that it did not detect any drones, and an investigation is underway as to what actually attacked this ship of the flotilla. The French President Emmanuel Macron is facing calls for his impeachment after Prime Minister François Bayrou lost the vote of confidence in the National Assembly. So as left-wing lawmakers claimed victory after Bayrou's government fell to a vote of confidence, the parliamentary leader of France's Unbowed Party, Mathilde Panot, said that the parliamentary group will file a motion to impeach French President Emmanuel Macron.
The France Unbowed parliamentary group will file a motion tomorrow to impeach the President of the Republic because the problem for the country and the deadlock for the country is him. And starting from September 10th, we will be everywhere alongside French men and women who will block the country's economy to say enough is enough.
The Monday's vote, which saw 364 deputies voting against Bayrou's government and only 194 in favour, marked the end of his 9-month tenure as Prime Minister. The Francois Bayrou is all set to submit his resignation to the President today. Now, before the vote, Francois Bayrou had warned the lawmakers that the need for tough decisions to address the country's soaring debt, which has climbed to 113% of the GDP. Bayrou's government had proposed a budget plan that would require 44 billion euros in savings, but it was met with resistance from both the left and the right wings.
Dear lawmakers, you have the power to make the government fall, but you cannot erase the reality. The reality will remain inescapable. The spending will continue to rise even more, and the burden of debt that's already unbearable will become more and more heavy and more costly.
The French socialists called on Macron to negotiate with the left after the Bayrou government was ousted.
If Macron loves this country, if he cares about the interests of the French, if he doesn't want to leave the far right as the only alternative, then, as I said, he should come and find us.
The Unionists in Clermont-Ferrand, France, celebrated the ousting of Prime Minister Francois Bayrou's government by gathering in front of the local town hall. They toasted with beer and wine while calling for President Emmanuel Macron's resignation.